What does a couple going through EFCT look like from start to finish? In this series, I'm going to give you a practical example of what this process looks like for a couple in distress. In this video, we're going to focus on stage one. Practically, this is what that looks like. A couple begins therapy because after having kids, they've found they've drifted and both have things they've come to resent about each other. The wife resents the husband for working so much and being disconnected, and the husband resents the wife for treating him like an afterthought in the relationship. Thus, every time they try to talk about anything serious or their relationship, they both get defensive, say mean things to each other, and then fume silently, widening their relationship gap. Here is how an EFCT therapist helps this couple in stage one. Step one, the therapist spends the first session with the couple all together to hear about their story, their history, and why they found themselves in their current spot. The therapist explains a path forward and begins to build an alliance. The next two sessions, the therapist will likely meet with both partners individually to gain insight into their own personal histories, attachment, and relationship, all the while building trust with both partners in a non judgmental, non pathologizing way. Step two, altogether now, the therapist helps to track and decode the cycle that the couple finds themselves in. The therapist will ask the couple to explain their most common disagreement or most recent one and slowly walk the therapist through what happens as if the therapist were a fly on the wall. As the couple does this, the therapist helps to identify certain protective moves each partner does and the effect that it might have on one another. Again, the therapist does this in a non blaming, non judgmental way. It's as if all three are on an expedition into the unknown, and the therapist is a field guide with a magnifying glass explaining processes that are otherwise hard to see. The therapist helps to make sense of the couple's protective moves so that they understand that they have good reasons for doing this due to their own fears about the relationship and care for the other, but still showing the negative impacts that these behaviors have on that bond that they want to protect. Both partners get this treatment and understanding, and both partners begin to, through humility and accountability, see that this dance, this cycle, is the enemy and at fault, not their partner being the enemy or at fault. For this couple, what becomes uncovered in step one potentially is that the wife might snap and criticize the husband as her main means of communication and interactions with him, which will cause the husband to withdraw, become stony and silent, or lead him to maybe like spend time elsewhere with other pursuits that make him feel safe and preoccupied. In step two, both partners begin to see that their own positions cause the other to enter into their own protections, and around they go. This cycle, this pattern becomes the enemy, not the partners themselves. Couples successfully working in step two begin to see themselves doing it and depersonalize it when it happens at home, and speak openly about, oh, we're doing that thing again, instead of, oh, you're a jerk, aren't you? In step three, the therapist helps each partner uncover the vulnerable emotions driving their own positions, i.e., behaviors, in this cycle. For this couple, the wife begins to uncover that her snapping and criticizing comes from a place of fear that the husband is losing interest in her. So she snaps and criticizes to protect this and protest this fear and test, so to speak, if he really loves her. Because that love matters so much, and she's so terrified of losing it. For the husband, he distances and withdraws out of a deep fear that he continues to disappoint his wife and can never do anything right. He can't stand the thought of being a failure in his wife's eyes, so he distances himself to avoid that pain. The couple, knowing their dance in step two, deepens their understanding of it in step three by seeing that it's these fears that keep them pushing each other away, which now discovering this in step three, they know that neither of them wants this. They're both afraid of losing each other, yet the protective moves they make end up fulfilling that prophecy, so to speak. Step three shows them this dynamic. In step four, the couple really solidifies their understanding of this dance, their mutual desire for one another and their fears, and reframes their cycle as the enemy. They stop blaming each other, and their reactivity drastically decreases. When a couple is here, they can get to move on to stage two.